Hi, I'm Kaylin.
And I'm Brooklyn, and this is Death Row Dialogue.
I'm glad that we're videoing it now because you can see the hand motions that she does every single time.
That's how you would use a banjo or whatever it's
That's
called.
what you're making the sound with your mouth like a banjo, but you're acting like you're playing a piano. It's a new instrument.
It's fine. We're fine.
So we are kind of like changing how we do the podcast a little bit because we really like doing the video, and I feel like we're getting a lot of good responses on YouTube from it. So we want to keep doing the video, but you also have to remember we have full-time jobs.
Yes.
So.
And we get sick, and she is a child, and I'm pregnant, and some days it's just not
gonna happen.
Yeah, some days it's just really hard, but we will be doing once a week for sure. And then I think once we get like a better schedule down, maybe we'll start doing twice a week. But for right now, especially with the holiday season, I think one is fair. And
well, and let's be real, y'all were being kind of spoiled because the twice a week was supposed to be a Texas and an out of state, and we just kind of got to where we were just doing 2 Texases a week. And that's just a lot for us, you know? Yeah. We don't have a researcher. I'm the researcher. So, we're going to go to once a week video, and then if we get to the point where we're doing twice a week, then it's just like a reward. So.
It's a reward.
I know. I've started doing like a book journal after I read, and every time I start doing it, I'm like, oh, it's just like a reward for myself reading this book. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
To get rocking and rolling?
Yes.
Okay. So we are on Inmate 52. His name is James Demouchette, and he was born on May 20th, 1955 in Bexar County. As a child, he was known to set fires and kill stray dogs and cats, which I feel like is one of the first people that we've had that has a direct indicator in their childhood of like what they will be like grown up. You know, because everyone says that is like the McDonald's triangle is how you know a serial killer.
I've never heard of that. What's that?
You never heard of the McDonald's triangle?
No idea.
Okay, I hope it's called McDonald's. I'm pretty sure because I remember always thinking like, oh, that's kind of weird. It's like McDonald's food.
Yeah.
But like the McDonald's triangle is setting fires, killing stray dogs and cats, and bedwetting at a really like later in life.
But they have to do all 3 together or just one?
It's typically all 3.
Bedwetter?
Yep. Killing animals and setting fires.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty bad kid.
Yeah, and like if you listen to a lot of, you know, serial killers, and I don't want to like name off ones because I don't know which ones exactly had all 3 of them in their childhood, but a lot of them had all 3 of them or at least 2 of them. So it kind of sets up who this person is, you know. He did fail elementary school multiple times due to his deviant behavior. He served time at a state school for juvenile delinquents, and then he also served time for negligent homicide as a juvenile and for larceny and burglary as an adult. And it didn't ever say what the negligent homicide was. I'm sure it was because he was a juvenile, so they didn't like put his name in anything. So there was no way to figure out what that was. But it might have just been like a car wreck or something.
Yeah.
So, okay. I'm not sure. So, he's 21 at the time of this crime. And he has a brother named Christopher who is 18. And on October 17th, 1976, they decide to enter a Pizza Hut. And this Pizza Hut, there was one article that was saying that their sister had worked there before. So they were familiar with, like, the staff. And the staff knew who they were because they went in there a lot when his sister worked there. And this is in Houston. Geoff Hambrick was the manager. And then there was an assistant manager named Scott Searle. And then there was Scott Searle's roommate also worked there, and that was Robert White. It did not say how old Geoff was at the time, but Scott was 19 and Robert was 22. And so Geoff Hambrick was the one that was closing that night, but he called Scott and was like, hey, why don't you come in on your day off and like I'll show you the books so that you know how to do them on your own whenever I'm not here. So Scott went in, and I'm not sure if Robert was already working or if he just brought Robert with him because they lived together. But Scott recognized one of the Demouchettes. I'm not really sure which one, but he invited the two brothers to join the other 3 men that worked there for a beer. So Demouchette sat at a booth with Robert, and then Chris sat at a booth with Scott and Geoff. After about 5 minutes, Geoff heard Robert say, "I'd think twice before I pulled that trigger." Geoff turned and saw Demouchette holding a large caliber revolver in Scott's face. Geoff saw Demouchette fire one shot directly into Robert's head. Demouchette then aimed the weapon at Geoff. Geoff saw Robert slump down on the table and heard a second shot. The bullet struck Geoff in the right side of his head near the ear. The impact knocked Geoff back into the edge of the booth, from which he recoiled forward onto the table. He was still conscious, and he just pretended to be unconscious. So he's just laying on the table, hoping that they don't know that he's alive, when he heard a third shot and a sound that he knew to be Scott falling over. Geoff heard the two boys run to the back of the Pizza Hut, and it sounded like they were just tearing the place apart. Like they were just searching for whatever they could. He could hear things falling off the walls, things being thrown around, and you could just tell that like they were ransacking the place. Geoff heard Scott like gurgling, like he was like choking on his own blood or something like that. He then heard the 2 men return to the dining room and heard Demouchette say, "Get the keys." So there was then another shot, and the gurgling stopped from Scott. So they made sure that Scott was dead. Geoff felt one man grab him underneath his arms and raise him up so that the second one could like feel in his pockets to get his keys out. He then heard Demouchette say, "Out the back door, Chris," and heard the two run to the back, heard the deadbolt click, and nothing more. Oh, they ran to the front door where customers come in. Geoff had locked that after the boys had come in and they sat down for their beer, so they unlocked that with his keys and then ran to the back, undid the deadbolt, and left.
Why did they unlock the front door?
You'll see.
Okay.
So Geoff remained motionless for a few more minutes, then got to his feet, locked the door back, and called the police. Houston police officers arrived while Geoff was still talking to the dispatchers, so they got there pretty quick. The cash register drawer was open and empty, and a small amount of money was scattered on the floor. In the office, things had been pulled from the shelves, drawers had been opened, and papers were strewn about the room. Stereo equipment had also been taken from the office. It never said how much they got from the cash register. The brothers were arrested not long after, and Geoff ID'd and testified against them. James was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death in 1977, while Christopher was given a life sentence. He died on August 20th, 2018, at the age of 60. In 1981, Demouchette's sentence was overturned by the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, arguing that Demouchette had not been told his right to remain silent prior to his clemency exam. In the next trial, he was sentenced to death again in April of 1983. So what they tried to say happened is that that Geoff actually did go unconscious and that he just didn't know. So they said that Geoff went unconscious, the boys left, and someone else came in and robbed the place. Yeah. So they were basically trying to say that, yeah, we shot the 3 of them, but we didn't rob the place. Because,
okay, what?
Because then...
the minorest of the crime.
But you have to think. You have to remember, what is it that gets you on death row?
Yeah.
It's 2 of them together.
Yeah.
So they're like, if we can convince them, like, at least have a reasonable doubt that we didn't do the burglary, then we can, like, get life sentences instead of the death sentence.
Isn't it weird how people that can take life so easy are so freaked out by death row?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they are just...
Well, it's just the selfishness.
Yeah.
They're just selfish.
That just always makes me laugh every time they're...
Well, and
it's just like they killed 3 men and then they're like...
Or 2 and then shot another.
Yeah. Well, they thought Geoff
killed.
was... Like, whenever they left that night, they thought they killed 3 men.
Mm-hmm.
So... You know what I'm saying? And then be like trying to get away with like, oh, well, I don't want to die on death row. It's like, yeah, imagine how those guys felt whenever you shot them in the face.
It's interesting because if we've noticed, we've had one bank robbery. One. Of the 52 cases we've done, there's been one bank robbery. All the other burglaries and robberies have been convenience stores and fast food places. How much money do you think they're carrying?
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Like, they're not carrying that much money.
Yeah.
They're really not. And so you're going to do all of this work to not even get $1,000.
Yeah.
Like, not saying that 1,000 is worth it, but like, it's...
I remember being 16, we couldn't carry, whenever I worked at McDonald's, we could not carry more than, I think it was like 200, and it's probably less now, but we could not carry more than $200 in the cash register. Well, and drop it.
And that's why,
you know what I'm saying?
That's why businesses don't take 50s, and they don't take $100 bills, because they don't want to have that much in their register.
Yeah.
So, like, you'll see all the signs, like, we don't accept anything over a 20.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah.
But not that long ago, our Starbucks was robbed, or not robbed, it was burglarized, like in the middle of the night.
What do they think's in a Starbucks? Everyone uses card and mobile pickup orders. Like, that's, anytime I ever get anything from Starbucks, Dutch Bros, anything like that, I do the order ahead.
Well, and let's be real, like, in this time, in 1980, it was more like, okay, you're going to have cash. Like,
Yeah.
there's going to be cash there. But nowadays, they're not going to have any cash.
I feel like I would genuinely, like, I could see, like, someone going in to rob somewhere like that and people laughing. Like, in their face. Like, okay.
You want $20?
Yeah.
I have 2 5s and a 10.
Yeah.
Like,
people just don't carry cash anymore.
No. Unless you're a server.
Yeah, if you're a waitress. But even then, almost all our I feel like whenever we worked as waitresses, almost all of it was credit card. Like, yeah, you got occasional cash tips, but, like, almost everyone tips on card. Unless it's, like, the end of the night.
Well, it depends what restaurant you work at. Yeah. Because the first restaurant I worked at, you did get, they started going to where they gave you a card. Like, you had a card and they deposited tips onto that each night. Yeah. That was your credit card tips. But the last serving job that I had, no, you still got cash at the end of the night. Even if you did not make a single cash tip. They owed you cash for your credit tips. Mm-hmm. So, it really just depends what place you work. So, honestly, not saying to rob anyone or burglarize anyone, but don't go for convenience stores and fast food places. Go for the restaurants. They're the ones that's going to have the most cash.
I'm not part of it.
I'm not saying to do it, but I'm saying, like, I just think their thought process is, like, do they just think it would be easier?
And not only that, I mean, it's really not worth the hassle. Like, even on a good night, right, as a waitress, right? Because, like, what'd you make? Like, maybe max 260, 300, something like that. Is that really even worth it? You know?
To spend the rest of your life either in jail or to be put to death?
Yeah.
No. But that's the whole point. Is, like, you're going for a convenience store and a Pizza Hut.
Yeah, because that's probably how much they got, too, though, you'd think.
And, I mean, they got a stereo system. But also, when you're stealing things that have a...
But they also got a stereo system.
Well, like...
Think about the budget on that.
When you have, like, when you're stealing something like that, those have VIN numbers. They all have serial numbers on them.
That's why I've never gotten people that got into, like, stealing guns or anything like that. I mean, unless you're selling it to other criminals, you know? I mean, you can scratch off the VIN and stuff like that. But I've never understood... stealing TVs, guns, like anything.
Also,
like
PSA. Whenever you buy something, you need to mark that serial number down. Whether it's a gun, a TV, an iPhone, an iPad, whatever it is, you need to have those serial numbers somewhere because that's what the police do need to do a report. You know? Because whenever they pull someone over and they have, you know, an iPad just lying around or something like that and they're searching a car because they think you're suspicious, they're running those serial numbers. So if you don't have that serial number, you're never going to find your stuff. But if you have the serial number and they have it in the system, it's going to get flagged.
Okay.
And that's anything, like tools, bicycles, like anything that's like a big ticket item that somebody would want to steal from you, like you get the serial number off of it.
You know what I just thought about? For our crime, how scary it must have been. First off, they invited the men in to drink with them, so they obviously knew them well enough. And then to be killed by someone you know well enough that you're sharing a beer with. Mm-hmm. And then, because I wonder if the two brothers had this already in their mind. Like, they had to have, because they had
they had the guns. Or it was a revolver.
Okay, my bad.
Remember, it's just in its pants. A whole shotgun.
They're like walking funny to get around.
You got a limp, buddy?
Dude, you know what? Geoff. Dude, I just thought, if you got a limp, buddy, or are you just happy to see me? Anyways, Geoff, I give him so much props because I've always thought about that. Like if someone tried to shoot me and I didn't die, I would play dead, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But imagine like thinking you've got away with it, you know, and then on top of it, they come back and pick you up.
Yeah, that's what's crazy.
I would have not. Because you have to, like, really...
You have to be, like, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then imagine, like, them dropping him back. I'm sure it wasn't gentle. I'm sure they just slammed his head back down. And
They're probably like... Well, and that's what's, like, so much props to Geoff. Like, such a hero.
Yeah.
Like, hero. Like, you were able to play dead the whole time they were in there. You played dead while they touched you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also, like, had enough awareness to wait until they were actually gone. Because if he would have woken up at any time with them being in there, like, he would have been done for.
Isn't that so scary?
Like,
my heart would have been like, I'm sure his was too.
No,
my heart would have been like, especially with all your dead friends next to you too.
And that's crazy because it's like, you know, people get PTSD from being in like the army and stuff, like dangerous jobs, and it's like he probably now has PTSD from being a manager at a fast food place. You know, it's like what job are you going to want to get into that you feel safe?
Letting people in after hours or just anything in general.
Yeah.
That or he's not scared of anything anymore.
He's like...
There's like one of two things. It's like he's not scared of anything anymore.
He either wants to do nothing or he's like, what are you going to do to me? I've been shot in the head.
Yeah.
So... Mm-hmm. And you know, people don't think that you can survive from being shot in the head, but you can. Mm-hmm. And people do, like, a lot. It's just... I say luck, but I know you don't think it's luck, but it's just how you're shot, you know? If you're not shot in the right place, then you're not going to die.
Yeah.
Because I'm guessing he was shot, like, here, so it was more of, like, under his brain and, like, under his skull.
Thank goodness he didn't get paralyzed.
That's what I was just thinking that.
My first thought was just, like, the neck and the spine being connected. Like, thank goodness he... Oh, dude. And what a big, like, in the courtroom, you know, going in there. Like, I wonder if they even told him, like, who the witness was. They just, like...
Well, imagine the police picking them up, and they're like, you can't prove it. And they're like, we have the guy you shot. He said it was you. And they're like...
I was actually just watching a crime. This is not related, sorry. But on YouTube the other day, and the man called because he shot his wife, basically, in cold blood, right? And they go in there and they're like, oh, she's responsive. And he's like, you could tell by his face, he was like, she's responsive.
He's like, wait, he's like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. And the cops were even like, you could tell in, like, the body cams and stuff.
He said, you weren't in theater when you were in high school, were you?
Yeah, his face like, oh my gosh, I loved her, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden he was like, she's alive?
Imagine him, like, turning and being like...
Well, that's what was funny. Whenever he was crying, there was, like, no tears. So it was literally just him, like,
and, like, honestly, you have to, like, laugh at how ridiculous they are.
Yeah.
Like, you're ridiculous. Yeah. No one believes you.
Mm-hmm.
You're an idiot. So, in August of 1983, Demouchette fatally stabbed a fellow inmate, Johnny E. Swift, a total of 16 times with a homemade knife while inside the prison day room. So, Johnny Swift died. They were just in the day room, and he had a homemade knife, and he stabbed Johnny Swift 16 times. Complete overkill. Like, that's an insane amount of times to stab somebody. And, so he was given a life sentence for that, and it's like...
Pointless.
Yeah, what does he care?
Yeah. He's
on death row. Honestly, I think he should have got another death sentence.
How do you do that?
I mean, he'd just have two.
Okay.
I mean, you gave him 2 life sentences.
Yeah, and that's actually isn't that puts you on death row.
Yeah, that's
being in prison and killing someone.
I know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, why did you not just give him another death sentence and just speed it along?
Maybe they just wanted it to be quick. Like, I wonder if death sentence trials, like, do take long.
A long time, yeah.
So it's kind of like, they're probably just like...
Well, if the question is he going to murder again, the answer is yes. If that's the question. It's pretty easy to answer. Months later, he beat and stabbed 2 other inmates. But they both lived. So.
And stabbed? Where's he getting these sharp objects? They need to start giving him, like, specific, like, only spoons that have to be given back at the end of his
can
life.
we just like, instead of plastic, can we just, because plastic can be sharp sometimes. Can we just
do
rubber?
Looked up shanks from prison?
Well, I've watched 60 Days In, and they're pretty.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Like, it's real?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like, well, okay, I think that it's pretty real because the first season, like, you're kind of like, but as you get later seasons, the inmates know what the show is. And so, like, and a lot of the cameras that you see from the show are just the prison cameras that they took the footage from the prison.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah. So, and the prisoners will even be like, because, you know, there'll be a production crew in there, and the production crew just says that they're filming a documentary on whichever prison it is, or, you know, stuff like that, like people's lives in prison. And the inmates will always be like, you know what? This is seeming like that show 60 Days In. Like, are you a part of 60 Days In? Like, are you actually an inmate? You need to watch it. I can't believe you haven't watched it. It's really good. So they just take, like, they take people who volunteer, obviously, and they go into jail for 60 days with, like, a task. Like, your task would be to find how drugs are getting in the prison. And my task would be to figure out how they're making shanks. So,
that's horrific.
So that's our task. Yeah. So, well, and you can drop out.
Do you get money?
No.
What the heck? No, I'm not going to go down as a snitch and no money.
Well, maybe you get money from, like, being on a TV show. But, like, I don't think you don't get money for, like, from the jail, I don't think. Mm-hmm. But to be fair, like, a lot of the people do drop out.
Okay.
Pretty early. Like, I would say, like, maybe 2 or 3 of the 8 they send in make it to the end.
Okay.
And there was this one season that this guy, he was like, let me stay in longer. Like, I can do more. I can do better. And, like, he kept going. Yeah. But, yeah, so, it's crazy. Like, you figure out how they make their shanks and what they use. And it's, like, this hard struggle for prisons because they're like, we don't want to have to put you in a cage and treat you like an animal, but if we give you too much freedom, you're doing things like this. Mm-hmm. So where is the happy medium?
I think it's hard because, like, I'm not saying all criminals are just POSs, but some criminals are. So it's really hard to give even a little because then they'll take a mile. Yeah. Because just because some inmates won't do something doesn't mean other inmates won't. Yeah.
So he also started setting fires in his cell. I don't know how.
He's got 2 sticks from outside.
Well, don't they get cigarettes though?
What?
Don't they get cigarettes in prison?
I assume. I mean, that's what. Listen, I'm only going based off things that, like, you know, because
like
I
the
feel
movies
like
that I've seen.
I learn a lot about crimes like through like actual documentaries, but they don't really go into whenever they get into prison.
Yeah, they do the crime. There's really nothing about their prison time or what it's like to be in, and that's why I like the 60 Days In because you see what it's like in a jail.
I'm sure they do get cigarettes though. I just feel like that's really common.
And I thought that they that was their like trading system other than their commissary was them trading like cigarettes. So maybe they get little like matchboxes to light their cigarettes. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think we should give matches to inmates.
Could you imagine getting a pack of cigarettes with no light?
You have a magnifying glass in the sun.
He's so sorry. Anyone with glasses?
That's how they regulate it. They're like, we'll give you cigarettes, but we're not going to give you a way to light them.
Yeah, I just don't know how you would. Maybe guards keep lighters on them to light it. No? Okay. Too far-fetched? I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, so he was also destroying TVs, which that's like, you have 2 forms of entertainment, books and TVs.
I'm surprised the other inmates weren't beating his butt because if that was like your only line to the outside world and one inmate's just ruin it for you, like I just am surprised.
Well, because I doubt they're getting new TVs soon, fast. Yeah. You know? And I wonder if that's why him and Johnny Swift got into it. Because he was, like, trying to destroy the TV, and Johnny Swift was like, what are you doing? Like, I'm trying to watch the news. Or whatever it is, you know? But, yeah, so he was destroying TVs. He did, at one point, rape a cellmate. I don't know if he stopped getting cellmates, or...
Gosh, I hope so.
Yeah, you'd hope. I mean, like...
So he's killed 3 men. Mm-hmm. Tried to kill, technically, 7... because Geoff and the other 2 guys, and then he
raped
catches fires. He's raped some. At this point, just speed it up.
Well, I feel like
Or put him in, like, literally a super padded room, and, like, that's where he stays.
Well, and I wonder, because, like, when you have good behavior on death row, I'm sure it, like, slows things down. So when you have bad behavior, is it, like, speeding it up? Because it should. I think it should. It's like, why are we letting you hang around?
I feel bad for that cellmate. Oh, my God.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you get there and they're like, all right, you're going to go bunk with Demouchette. You're like, can you put me in solitary instead?
Yeah,
like,
literally.
I don't want to do that.
I would literally act crazy just to not.
You said, I will kill myself if you put me in there.
Yeah.
So put me in the padded cell.
Yeah.
So following the fires, destroying the TVs, and the rape, the media attention started to be really focused on Demouchette. And they are the ones that nicknamed him the meanest man on death row. On January 6, 1988, he attacked corrections officers Charles Aggie, who was 26, Scott Stoughton, who was 24, and Roger Barkin, who was 22, with a homemade knife after they attempted to search his cell for weapons. So they were going in to get the weapons, and he attacked them with a weapon. None of the officers were seriously injured, but Charles, who was the 26-year-old, sustained 3 puncture wounds to the left thigh. Right thigh.
They should be doing checks on his fucking cell every day.
Maybe this is too far, but I don't even think he should have a bed.
Yeah.
Like, have a mat on the floor.
Yeah, I definitely feel like after, there's like a point where it's like you are treated like an animal, and he deserves that kind of treatment.
He was put to death on September 22nd, 1992 by lethal injection, and he offered no last words, and it didn't say anything about his last meal. I will say that he was sentenced to death in 1977, and then he wasn't executed until 1992. Like,
I'm trying to do the math. 77 to 87, that's 10. And then to what?
To 92.
That's not that long.
It's like 15 years. 15 years.
Yeah.
For him to kill someone, beat 2 people, attack 3 guards, rape someone, destroy multiple TVs, and set fires to his cell.
Yeah, 15 that sounds like a lot when you say it like that.
Yeah.
But 15 just doesn't sound like a lot to me now, because some of the inmates that we listen to, it's like, oh my gosh. You know? They've
been there for a hot minute. And that is number 52.
That was horrible.
Yeah. Some of the people we listened to were like, maybe it was just something, like, maybe they weren't, like,
I'm
awful.
Really
but
surprised.
This one,
no last words.
He's bad. I mean, even if he had last words, they'd probably be stupid.
Yeah.
Probably be like, I forgive everyone who's harmed me. Boy. What about the people you've harmed? And it's like, how many people, because these are the people that reported something in the prison. Mm-hmm. And people aren't going to report stuff unless it's bad.
I bet you he stabbed more than that. And
yeah.
I bet you, yeah. Because I do know that's what it's like in there. Like,
well, and
you just keep your mouth shut.
You also have to think, like, these men aren't going to report that they're being raped. You know?
Yeah, why would you?
Like, I doubt that he only raped 1 person in prison over the 15 years.
And it makes me so, like, and I feel like just as, like, okay, I don't know how to say stop being myself. Like, I feel like as a man, though, you really don't think about stuff like that. So, like, about being raped. You know?
Like, you're not, like, scared of it?
Yeah, like, I feel like that's not, like, a super common thing as a man to be scared of.
Maybe not in your everyday life, but I think if...
Maybe in prison.
Yeah, if you know that you're going to prison and you know that you're an attractive man, I'm sure that's one thing that you're...
I don't think I'd be attractive, girl. They just...
Yeah, I think that is something that men are scared of when they go to prison, because that's like the thing that you hear about men's prisons. Any prison. Yeah, any prison. You know, even like females. You know, it's the same thing.
Oh, sorry.
She was so shocked she hit the mic.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the men. I mean, women are gonna want it too. So, yeah.
That's horrific.
Well, don't go to jail.
Okay. Not prison. I don't know. If anything like that happens to me in the county jail, I am definitely pressing some charges to everything I can.
Well,
That's
and like
crazy.
From what I understand, like prisons are very aware that it's an issue. Like especially if you know that you're being locked up for a long amount of time, like and people have sexual urges, like this issue is gonna be happening. They do make it clear, from what I understand, that anything sexual is not allowed in prisons, like consensual or not. And they do like try to make it as open as possible to where you don't have the private places. You know what I mean? Like there's very few private places.
That literally makes me so sad.
It is very sad.
No matter how much I don't like anyone, someone, never would I wish that on them. That's awful.
So, do you have some facts for us?
I do. So, the last time we talked, I said I would look into things on Christmas in prison. Could not find anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they really care about giving them Christmas.
Wait, no. Pause. We did do this in our last episode.
Well, we talked about
the tinsel.
Yeah, we talked about decorations and stuff like that.
Yes, okay.
But you were gonna try to find some
more stuff,
but you couldn't find it.
Yes, okay. That's where I was like, wait a second, am I dumb?
But I think the main thing that you were gonna focus on was
repeat offenders.
The repeat offenders and the if you harm somebody that is mentally disabled.
So honestly, sorry about that. Sorry guys. The disabled part, I could not find anything on it. I have to dig way deeper. Like literally everything I kept looking up, no matter which way, you can even ask Kaylin, she was with me, no matter which way you worded it on the internet, it basically just said if you basically have a certain amount, an IQ really low, you're not eligible for death row. So, or you're basically
that was the only thing it was saying. It wasn't saying anything about crimes against people with mental disabilities, but I did see things where it said that your charge will be elevated a degree.
Yes,
but I mean, it didn't say anything specifically for death row. It was just saying that you'll be charged harder.
Do you think I could call a prison and ask?
Not the prison.
Okay.
It's more of a lawyer or a judge.
That's good. I just get nervous because then what if they put me on some kind of list? They're like, that's.
They said.
That was silly. Okay. Anyways, and then the big thing for the repeat offenders. So, whenever it comes to crimes committed by basically anyone, the chances of you becoming a repeat offender are extremely high, especially the younger you are. So basically, they said they did a study, and I believe it was in 2018, that they actually, whenever they followed 10 inmates that they released, 8 out of the 10 went bad within 5 years.
Wow.
They were all young. They were more young on the younger side.
Yeah.
So basically, they're saying it's extremely high. So someone that is in their earlier 20s and younger, they have, I think it was something crazy, it was over 60-70%.
I wouldn't say it was 70%.
Yeah, that they will go back to prison. But if you're past 40, I did read 40 and after though. Usually, if that's your first time going to prison, you won't repeat it.
Well, and that makes sense though, because you have to think once you get to a certain age, your life is established. Your teens and your early 20s is your risky time. Where you're testing boundaries of what you can get away with. I feel Also, I think you're right about and they have something to go back to. Mm-hmm. The 40-year-old has something to go back to usually. You have an established, you have a family, you have, you might not be married or have kids, but you have people that count on you that you see every day as your family. But when you're in your early 20s, you, not to say that young 20-year-olds, because we're young 20-year-olds and we're family oriented.
You're a young 20-year-old.
Anyways, I know. I was like, oh, yeah, she's past the hump.
Yeah, bite your tongue.
okay, we're in our 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Correction, we're in our 20s.
Uh-huh.
And we're family oriented, but most 22, 23, 24, 25-year-olds are not in the point of their life where they are like starting families and doing all that. They are, just getting out of college or like in college, still living, like going to parties and all this stuff. And that's where that risky behavior is going to come through, and, crimes are going to happen. And then once you're like, oh, like I got away with that. I can do it again. And then that's when you're going to start, getting into this habit and this routine of doing these crimes. So then, like, that makes a lot of sense because, when you're 40, you're like, and you do a crime, you're like, oh, wow, should not have done that.
Yeah.
Like, I knew better.
True. Or they could be like one of our dudes on our little page, and it's like, wow, I never knew you was like that. That's crazy. And it's like, you didn't notice all the red flags? I'm hearing the story, and I can hear all the red flags.
And most of the people that are on death row, and that's the thing is you notice we have like two different kind of classifications on death row. You have people that are older that their record is they've been like to jail like 5 times, and this is like their 6th time going to jail. Mm-hmm. Or you have people that don't have any prison record because they're 18, mm-hmm. and this is their first big crime. So that makes tons of sense.
Yeah, they said, and the thing I was reading is a lot of like, especially juvenile, like that commit heinous crimes. It's usually going to be like a lifelong, thing. So that makes me wonder sometimes if like that's why judges are harder on like younger kids. Like whenever they do something bad and they're like, you're going to be in here for a while.
I feel like it's weird because I personally have known juveniles that were just continuously like given the slip,
multiple chances.
Like I'm like, dude, send them somewhere.
I have literally, I wish I could say their name. I just wish I could. I know someone that has been to prison at least. Okay, maybe not prison. It has to be prison because he was there. I feel like for a year or 2 at a time every time. But I'm telling you, every time he gets out. Kid you not, every time on Facebook, it's like a joke. It's like an ongoing joke because every time he gets out, it's like within a month, he's back. And it's the same stuff. He burglarizes and, oh my gosh, he burglarizes and, he steals. He just steals all the time.
Well, and like...
And it's like, when is enough? Like, keep him locked up.
I know juvenile, like, that they were awful about, like, stealing, about fighting, like even given like an ankle monitor, and like they were just continuously given like chances. And I'm like, at some point you're not helping them. Like, literally. You're not helping them. I do think that you're hurting them because they think that they can just keep doing this and you're just going to keep giving them passes. And then if you don't do anything when they're a juvenile and they don't get put in like juvenile detention, then you're giving them a huge wake-up call when they turn 17 and they're put in big boy jail. Mm-hmm. So you're not helping them.
I feel like, too, as we know from, like, our stories, and just, like, I feel like awkward, in life in general, if you keep letting someone off the hook, the crimes are just going to get progressively worse.
Well, I feel like that's just a philosophy.
They're obviously not scared of jail. Like, if they've already been multiple times, they're not scared of it. You don't think they're going to up the antes, because then they'll be like, well, worst case scenario, I just go back to jail. Yeah. So.
Well, and, like, that's not to get deep. But, like, that's just kind of a philosophy. Like, the more that you keep letting someone do something to you, or to something, and you just keep letting them get away with it, the worse they're going to get. They're going to keep doing it because they're like, oh, well, they didn't care. Mm-hmm. They just let me do it. And they're just going to keep letting me do it. And they're not going to stop. So they're just going to keep doing worse things to you. Whether, not saying it's anything physical, but, like, even, like, friend-wise. Oh, well, like, she doesn't care if I blow her off. So I'm just going to keep blowing her off.
That's true.
Or, like, she doesn't care if I say something mean to her. So I'm just going to keep putting her down because she doesn't say anything about it.
That makes me sad.
Well, but I mean, like, that's how some people think, Yeah. Like, so, it goes with, your everyday life as well as, like, criminals. Like, the more people get away with things, the more they're going to think they can get away with it.
Yeah, and I feel like after doing this, like, I always knew, like, for repeat offenders, like, it was always high, And I'm sorry I couldn't give, like, exact facts. I did leave my piece of paper at work that had everything on it. But, anyways, What was I saying?
I don't know. You didn't finish a thought. You were just saying something before this. You didn't understand repeat offenders.
Oh, I didn't understand, like, the severity of how, like, crimes really do escalate. And now after doing all the death row, it's like almost every time, they're always repeat offenders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, like, you'll hear things like, oh, he killed somebody. And the guy that literally got freaking 6 years and it was supposed to be 40.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the logic in that?
Yeah.
What happened? What are you talking about? Because if you would have kept him in there for even half, the crime that he committed next would have not happened. So, like, there has to be some type of... Ugh, it just makes me mad.
There's no point in my head. I think that the justice system is pretty flawed because there's no point in my mind to give someone 40 years and then let them go in 6. Why give them 40 years?
You know what I think we should do? You know what my first thought was?
That's scary. Whatever you're going to say, I'm scared.
Said physical punishments, but I was thinking more of like with a paddle. You know, like the ones with the holes that hurt?
Yeah, I'm familiar.
If you're not from Texas, over here they whoop. You whoop your kids a little bit. And they would... I only had it happen to me one time.
It sounds deranged, but
pain.
they do... parents, maybe not parents nowadays, but when we were growing up, they would put holes in them, and you're like, why do you do that? Well, the air goes through it, and it goes faster, and it hurts more.
It truly does. I've only ever been to... I got one time I got a paddling.
I never got spanked by one of those.
It was... My father used to make me pick out the belt he was going to whoop my ass with. It and if I try to choose the lesser of the evils, the lesser of the evils, he would be like... All right, then I'm going to pick.
Yeah.
And so he would go back and pick a harder one. But to be fair, though, if it was like one that actually looked scary, he wouldn't hit as hard. You know, because I think he just wanted it to more like scare me. So he'd be like, no, Daddy, no! You know? But yeah, I got hit one time. One time with those. And I just think if they got that for certain crimes, like every day, you get a certain amount of paddles every day for as long as you're in prison.
Yeah, I think that falls under cruel and unusual punishment.
Well, that one, the man we just talked about, are you kidding me? You don't think he deserved a paddling? Are you crazy?
That's it. You write a letter. You write a letter to the governor. Inmates deserve paddling.
Dude, I bet you would teach him a lesson. I bet you it would.
You want to hide a shank? Go pick out your paddle.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Could you imagine?
No.
And you get so many paddles for...
Why has no one thought about this?
They're dumb.
It's not that damaging. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, your butt's going to hurt like hell.
You get a little donut to sit on.
No donut. That's for punishment.
Okay, so next episode, what do you want to research?
Ooh, this is a good one.
What are you thinking?
I don't know. It's so hard. Ooh, because New Year's is coming up, so I could probably do something along the lines of like...
They do nothing. They don't care.
How much the jails fill up on New Year's night?
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying, what do they celebrate?
How much more crimes?
They don't.
They definitely don't.
They don't.
They don't get Christmas. They don't get New Year's. Just paddles.
That's your Christmas present?
Dude, could you imagine, though, being in prison? Because I feel like it'd be better to have the option to either get, depending on the crime, obviously not heinous ones, but, like, instead of, like, going to jail, it's like you can either get 100 paddles or you can go to jail for 30 days.
100?
Oh, dude, yeah.
At a time?
You'd probably die, actually. So, do, like...
Okay,
like maybe
now that you're describing it like that, it sounds like
it's painful.
In medieval times when they got whippings, like when they whipped their backs.
No, dude, it's a paddle.
I know, but if 100
totally
at a time,
illegal.
100 at a time is a lot, Brooklyn.
Okay,
this
is my judge and jury right here.
The governor's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. You say 100 at a time, they say, whoa. Well, or even imagine if you stole something and people like had a ruler and they were hitting your hands for stealing.
Oh, that would hurt. That would actually piss me off. Like, my fingers getting hurt, like, my fingers and my shins.
But don't you think, like,
Ugh.
if you were caught stealing something and they just did that to you at the store instead of calling the police, you wouldn't want to steal again.
That's true. Put your hands out, and then you'd be shaking. That'd be great. I would love that.
Okay.
Ooh, and the person you steal from or tried to steal gets to be the one that hits your hands.
That's crazy.
Dude, yeah, and paddles you.
I had a crazy thought. I don't want to say it. I'll tell you after. I feel like we've already exposed ourselves too much.
If you're texting and you're listening to it, I feel like a texting though would be like,
disclaimer, this is a riff. Disclaimer. Like a riff, like we're just like joking back and forth.
oh, we are just joking.
In case you don't know. Okay, we'll be back next time. I really like recording like this. I think it's really fun. So, guys, don't take us too seriously. For real. Okay. We'll be back. I'm gonna be real with y'all. We're gonna try to do an episode next week, but it's Christmas. Like, if we do one, yay. If not, it's Christmas.
Yeah. So that means you have to forgive us. Anyways, bye.
Bye.